Keir Starmer facing Labour civil war with looming by-election. Nothing says strong and stable leadership quite like your own party whispering about replacing you while one of your most popular figures eyes a convenient by-election like a cat watching a particularly plump pigeon. Welcome back to UK Political Insight, where today we're diving into what could be the spiciest internal Labour drama since, well, last week probably, because this party can't seem to go more than a few days without some fresh chaos. Keir Starmer's facing a potential civil war. Andy Burnham's name is being thrown around like confetti at a very tense wedding. And a by-election in Gorton and Denton just became the most watched vacant seat in British politics. Grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's unpack this beautiful mess. So here's what's happened. Andrew Gwynne, Labour MP for Gorton and Denton, has stepped back from his parliamentary duties after receiving medical advice that he can't safely return to work. First things first, genuinely hope the man's all right and gets whatever help and recovery time he needs, because health comes before politics every single time. But, and there's always a but in Westminster, his departure triggers a by-election. And that by-election has immediately become the center of some absolutely delicious political speculation about who might stand. And at the top of that speculation list is Andy Burnham, the king in the north, the mayor of Greater Manchester, the man with the best hair in British politics, and according to many, a future Labour leader waiting in the wings. Now, Andy Burnham standing in a Manchester by-election wouldn't normally be that controversial. He's from the area, he's popular in the region, he's got name recognition that most MPs would kill for. The problem, and oh what a glorious problem it is that Burnham is widely seen as a potential leadership challenger to Keir Starmer. Not someday in the distant future when Starmer retires gracefully to write his memoirs and tend his garden, but potentially soon if things continue going the way they're going for the Prime Minister. So the question of whether Burnham stands in this by-election isn't just about one parliamentary seat. It's about positioning, ambition, internal party power dynamics, and whether Labour's about to tear itself apart before we've even hit the 1-year mark of Starmer's government. Let's talk about Andy Burnham for a second, because understanding why this matters requires understanding who he is and why he's such a significant figure. Burnham's been around Westminster forever. He was a cabinet minister under Gordon Brown. He ran for Labour leadership in 2010 and lost to Ed Miliband, ran again in 2015 and lost to Jeremy Corbyn, then pivoted to become mayor of Greater Manchester in 2017. And that mayoral gig has been absolutely transformative for his political brand. He's positioned himself as the champion of the North, fighting for investment, infrastructure, and fairness for communities that feel London-centric governments have forgotten them. He's vocal, he's media savvy, he's got genuinely popular policies like the B network transport system, and crucially, he's built a profile that transcends normal local government politics. Burnham's also been making noises that sound suspiciously like leadership positioning. He's criticized government policies when he disagrees with them. He's talked about what Labour should stand for in ways that sometimes contrast with what Starmer's government is actually doing. And he's maintained enough distance from the Westminster Labour machine to seem like an outsider even though he's very much an insider who knows exactly how the game is played. He's basically been running a shadow leadership campaign without officially running a leadership campaign, which is smart politics when you're waiting for your moment. And here's that moment potentially landing right in his lap, a by-election in Greater Manchester, an area where he's enormously popular as mayor in a safe Labour seat that he could probably win while sleepwalking. If Burnham wanted a route back into Parliament, back into the Commons where leadership contests are fought and won, this is about as perfect an opportunity as he could hope for. It's gift-wrapped. It's got a bow on it. The only question is whether he takes it. But here's where it gets complicated, because Starmer and the Labour leadership absolutely do not want Burnham back in Parliament right now. They've got enough problems without one of the party's most popular figures, someone who polls better than the Prime Minister in many surveys, sitting on the backbenches lobbing grenades at government policy whenever he feels like it. Because make no mistake, if Burnham returns to Westminster, he's not doing it to be a quiet, loyal backbencher who nods along at Prime Minister's questions and votes however the whips tell him to. He'd be a voice, a presence, a focal point for anyone in the parliamentary party who's unhappy with Starmer's direction. And there are quite a few MPs who fall into that category. One Labour backbencher already told the Press Association that the leadership would be foolish to block Burnham from standing. That's not just one random MP's opinion, that's a warning shot. It's saying there's a constituency within the parliamentary party that wants Burnham back, that sees him as representing something Labour should be that it currently isn't. Blocking him, preventing him from standing, would create a massive internal row about party democracy, top-down control, and whether ambitious politicians are allowed to pursue their ambitions or must wait for permission from the leader's office. But if the leadership doesn't block him and Burnham wins, Starmer gets a different problem. He gets a charismatic, popular, media-friendly MP with a proven record of winning elections and governing who has enough support within the party to make trouble if he wants to. Burnham wouldn't need to explicitly challenge Starmer's leadership immediately. He could just be there, being Andy Burnham, giving speeches about northern investment and social justice and what Labour should really stand for. And every time Starmer stumbles, every time a policy goes wrong or the polls dip, people would look at Burnham and think, maybe. This is the nightmare scenario for any political leader. Not an open rebellion you can fight and crush, but a constant alternative. A permanent reminder that there's someone else available if things don't work out. It's death by 1,000 whispers, by endless speculation, by journalists asking in every interview whether Burnham is planning a leadership bid, and backbenchers giving quotes about how refreshing it is to have someone who really understands working-class concerns. Starmer would spend the next however many years constantly looking over his shoulder at his own backbenches, wondering when the knife's coming. Now, Burnham might not stand. He's got a pretty good gig as mayor, he's achieved things there, and jumping back into Westminster's snake pit isn't necessarily attractive when you have real power and popularity in Greater Manchester. Running for Parliament, especially in a by-election that would inevitably be framed as Burnham versus Starmer if neither name's on the ballot officially, is high risk. If he wins, great, he's back, but the leadership will make his life difficult. If he somehow loses, which is unlikely but not impossible in the chaotic multi-party politics we're living through now, his reputation takes a massive hit and his leadership ambitions are probably finished. There's also the question of timing. Is this the right moment for Burnham to make his move? Starmer's government is struggling, sure, but it's only been in power for months. There's no immediate leadership vacancy, no obvious trigger for a contest. If Burnham returns to Parliament now, he might be sitting on the backbenches for years waiting for an opportunity that never comes, gradually becoming part of the Westminster furniture again, rather than the fresh alternative he currently represents. Sometimes the smart political move is patience, maintaining your external position and popularity until the perfect moment arrives, rather than forcing it prematurely. But politics isn't always smart, calculated moves. Sometimes it's about opportunity, about seizing the moment when it presents itself because you don't know if it'll come around again. Burnham is in his mid-50s, he's not getting any older, and if he seriously wants to be Labour leader and potentially Prime Minister, he can't do that from Manchester Town Hall. He needs to be in Parliament. He needs to be visible in national politics daily, and he needs to start building the coalition of MPs who'll support him when the time comes. The Gorton and Denton seat itself is solidly Labour. Gwynne won it with a massive majority in the general election, and there's no realistic prospect of Labour losing it even in the current political climate. So the by-election isn't really about whether Labour holds the seat, it's about who Labour's candidate is and what that choice represents for the party's future. If Burnham stands and wins, it's a statement about internal democracy and allowing talented politicians to pursue their ambitions. If the leadership blocks him or he chooses not to stand, it's a different statement about party loyalty and not rocking the boat. There's a broader context here too, which is that Starmer's government is genuinely struggling. The winter fuel payment cuts angered pensioners and Labour's own backbenchers. The farmers' inheritance tax changes triggered mass protests and rural fury. The decision to postpone local elections in multiple council areas has been widely criticized as anti-democratic. Defense spending commitments are unclear. The government's had to U-turn on multiple policies already. Poll numbers are softening. Reform UK is surging in just won by-elections in Labour heartlands. The honeymoon period, such as it was, is definitively over, and Labour MPs are Keir Starmer facing Labour civil war with looming by-election. Nothing says strong and stable leadership quite like your own party whispering about replacing you while one of your most popular figures eyes a convenient by-election like a cat watching a particularly plump pigeon. Welcome back to UK Political Insight, where today we're diving into what could be the spiciest internal Labour drama since, well, last week probably, because this party can't seem to go more than a few days without some fresh chaos. Keir Starmer's facing a potential civil war. Andy Burnham's name is being thrown around like confetti at a very tense wedding. And a by-election in Gorton and Denton just became the most watched vacant seat in British politics. Grab your popcorn, settle in, and let's unpack this beautiful mess. So here's what's happened. Andrew Gwynne, Labour MP for Gorton and Denton, has stepped back from his parliamentary duties after receiving medical advice that he can't safely return to work. First things first, genuinely hope the man's all right and gets whatever help and recovery time he needs, because health comes before politics every single time. But, and there's always a but in Westminster, his departure triggers a by-election, and that by-election has immediately become